What's going on, guys? I wanted to make a video to talk about kind of a hot topic. It's been a hot topic for a long time, but it really seems to be cycling back around a lot again lately. The idea of myofascial trigger points. I want to talk about reliability on myofascial trigger points. I want to talk about what they possibly are. I want to talk about how they could actually be an output of a protective system rather than necessarily an input due to dysfunctional tissue. The concept has been around for a long time. It's really complex. It's caused a lot of discussion. It's caused a lot of stir. I'm going to take the stance here that there are certainly soft tissue sore spots. To quote Adam Meekins, they're soft tissue sore spots of an unknown origin. We genuinely don't know what causes them right now, but I'm going to propose a little bit more of a modern viewpoint. And this certainly isn't my own. I'm just putting it out here for easy consumption for other people, that myofascial trigger points or soft tissue sore spots of an unknown origin are more likely to be the result of a protective nervous system rather than an input that is a pain generator or causing pain. So what we do know about soft tissue sore spots of an unknown origin is that they hurt. They have a altered pain pressure threshold. So we know that in these areas where patients say that it hurts when you poke them, they can withstand less of a pressure before they get to the experience of pain or they report pain. So what we can say is that there seems to be some sort of sensitization going on with the soft tissue sore spot. However, the traditional idea is that they are hypertonic or hypercontracted micro muscle cramps or dysfunctional neuromuscular junctions in which there's a little bit too much acetylcholine leaking out of the neuromuscular junction, causing a little bit of hypertonicity at the level, at the local level there where that neuromuscular junction is. The reason that I don't like this idea is if this were the case, then injecting these areas with Botox would cause pain to decrease. And there's a study in 2006 by a guy named Querema, Qerema, I believe, where they used Botox locally in the areas of the trigger points, and they didn't really see a change in pain for those people that got Botox injected into that area. So if we used a toxin that inhibits the release of acetylcholine, we should probably see the level of pain change there, because it should quote unquote deactivate the trigger point. The next reason that I don't think that dysfunctional neuromuscular junctions is an issue is because if it was, you could probably do some exercise or a maximal contraction of some sort that really drives a lot of corticomotor activity down the spinal cord and down the motor neuron to the muscle, and really blasts a lot of acetylcholine out, and quote unquote resets that trigger point. If it's just leaking a little bit, then why would electrical stimulation or a maximal tetanic contraction or really heavy weightlifting where you cycle through all of your motor units and fatigue a muscle all the way to failure, why would that not take care of this dysfunctional neuromuscular junction that's leaking a little bit of acetylcholine? So I drew a little picture up here, and what I want to do is zoom in on the soft tissue sore spot of an unknown origin. So if you zoom in, of course, we have the junction of neurons or nerve endings with the muscle, right? And if we zoom in further, we see that we have voltage-gated ion channels on the nerve. And when you look at the nerve under a microscope and you look at these voltage-gated ion channels, we know that they depolarize when they get a certain amount of stimulus. And when they depolarize, they send information up to the dorsal root ganglion, up the nerve, up the spinal cord, into the brainstem, into the brain. The interesting thing about nociceptors is that they seem to be a little bit higher threshold of a neuron that doesn't depolarize based on regular activity, but depolarizes when it gets to a higher stimulus and sends that information up to the spinal cord into the brain. We know that nociceptors are mechanical, chemical, and thermal, so they depolarize in response to thermal stimulus. It's too hot or too cold, a plethora of different chemical stimuli, as well as mechanical stimulus of too much pressure, too much stretch, tissue damage, that sort of thing. So if we take, for instance, an individual that is overworking, both physically and cognitively, we take that individual and we look at their sleep patterns, and their sleep patterns are suboptimal. We take that individual and we explore their cognitive factors, and we look at their emotions and their stress levels and their anxiety levels and kind of their hypervigilance. And we look at all of that and try to determine what is actually going on with them. We can see that a lot of time these factors can sensitize the person's nervous system to make them a little bit more protective. And we know that pain is an experience that we have as a mechanism for protection. So let's imagine that we have overworked a muscle, or we have done too much activity, or we've been under a lot of stress and we've been sustaining a position of some sort, putting a amount of pressure or tissue ischemia in an area. We can have changes in these voltage gated ion channels that actually increase in density and increase in sensitivity, so a lower degree of stimulus will elicit an action potential of nociception to the brain. What we know, interestingly, is that we're actually experiencing nociception all the time. I am sitting on this table right now and I have 180 pounds pushing down on the skin on my rear end and on the backs of my legs, which is highly likely to be stimulating nociceptive activity right now. But a lot of nociceptive activity actually doesn't make it to the conscious brain. We will see that there's a lot of withdrawal reflexes before information even has the time to get to the brain, for the brain to make a decision. You burn your hand and you have that withdrawal reflex because it happens at the level of the spinal cord. So oftentimes there's a lot of spinal cord activity going on that is taking care of nociception. So if I sit here for long enough, I'm going to shift, I'm going to fidget, I'm going to move around, I'm going to change my positions, I'm going to alter my center of mass to take pressure off of one spot and put pressure onto another spot, because that nociception on a subconscious level is saying, hey Jared, I need you to move right now. I need you to change your position a little bit. I need you to alter what you're doing so we don't get to a position in which you have the likelihood of damage. If I stay in that position too long, I'll probably have some tissue ischemia. Now, if I have tissue ischemia, now I've got both mechanical and chemically mediated nociception going on at the same time. And over a certain threshold, that nociception may actually go up into the brain and create the conscious experience of pain. So pain is a conscious experience. You cannot experience pain if you are unconscious. You can have withdrawal reflexes, which are spinal cord mediated and lower brain level mediated reflexes that are protective, but you don't necessarily experience pain. A classic example of this is a guy named HM, or he was called Hippocampal Man, was his nickname. He was a gentleman that sustained some brain injury. I can't remember exactly how, but he ended up having his hippocampus and his amygdala removed or